The snow sparkles. It's like literally skiing on diamonds. I've always wanted to go to the North Pole. I'm going to go to the North Pole. There's ridge lines and there's blocks of ice and there's open water leads where the ice splits and you're literally just staring at the Arctic Sea. I felt like there was a real kind of danger to my job when I got home if I lost any of my fingers. I took a load of names printed on a flag in memory of people's loved ones, and my biggest concern when I was evacuated was I told people I would take their loved ones to the North Pole, and I have to take their loved ones to the North Pole.
They say find a goal and work for it with everything that you have. To do what makes you passionate, to go to university, get an apprenticeship, get a job with your company, be an entrepreneur, buy a house, travel the world, strive for financial freedom. But in the end, it's all about you. It's about what you want for your life and where you want to take it. My name is Jessie Pengilly, and my job is to listen. Each week I seek out individuals who are chasing and achieving their own goals on their own terms. Each have their own individual motivation, focus and passion. Their stories will change your perspective on what is possible, open your eyes to what real people are doing, how they're doing it, and hopefully inspire you to do what you want to do on your terms.
It was New Year 2015 going into 2016. We had some friends who were staying around for New Year, actually mutual friends of mine and yours. And my friend said to me, look, Cam, you need to find something to get back to yourself. My second child, my son, was about 9 months old at the time, 6 months old at the time. And I didn't struggle with like postnatal depression, but I definitely found it hard to kind of maintain my own hobbies and stuff after I'd had both the kids. And I was always major into outdoors and expeditions and stuff. And he said, look, you just need a goal, you need something. And he said to me, just pick like the biggest goal, the wildest thing that you thought you could never achieve. And to be fair, I don't think he thought I was going to pick what I did. And I said to him, well, I've always wanted to go to the North Pole. I'm going to go to the North Pole. And he was like, okay. And at the time we all kind of laughed and was like, yeah, that's a lovely goal. We'll do like a half marathon or something instead. Like, I think we all thought it was going to be something much smaller. And I just couldn't, as soon as I'd said it out loud, I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I don't think I'd even formulated that sentence in my own mind before. It was literally it just came out, and then that's it. Then I was like researching how to do it, ways of getting there, how much it costs, fitness, equipment, like literally everything. So then I spent the next year, just over a year and a half, fundraising, training, finding an expedition to go on and all that stuff. And then April 2017, we went on the expedition, 1st of April 2017.
Wow, oh my gosh. That's how, I mean, the whole process of that, you've explained it so quickly, but it must have been quite hard. Like, how did you even find the right expedition? Did you have to look for the kind of people, the right setup? Were there certain expeditions for certain levels as well?
Yeah, so I literally, I Googled it. Right, I just went to the first source, Googled it, and tried to figure out, okay, what are the ways of getting there? So essentially, you can do what amounts of commercial expeditions where you can you ski basically, or you can dog sled, but there's not many of those around. Or you can literally just pay to be helicoptered and just dropped off at the North Pole. Or you can go in the summer months on like massive icebreaker ships.
Oh, wow.
But I basically needed a physical challenge as well as just the challenge of making that happen, of just getting there. So I decided to ski. So you can ski half a degree, or you can ski the last degree to the North Pole. So literally going from 89 degrees north to 90 degrees north. So I started looking for companies who do that kind of expedition. There are more of them around than you think. And I found one who, a really great company called Charity Challenge, who basically do all the kind of challenges that you would expect, like Great Wall of China, Kilimanjaro, like cycling, you know, Vietnam, all those types of things, but also things that are a little bit more specialised. And what you're able to do is you can either pay outright and just do the expedition with them, or you can raise money for charity. And I kind of thought, okay, if I'm going to put that much effort in, be planning and training and stuff for a year and a half, I might as well make it kind of important to other people, like make it useful for other people and not just for my own personal goal. So I decided to do it with Charity Challenge, a charity called Action Medical Research for Children. And so I fundraised for them and fundraised for the actual cost of the expedition, because it is no cheap thing to go to the North Pole. So in the end, I raised £37,500. Some of that was for expedition costs, and just over half of that was just for the charity.
That's incredible. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, so I remember we went to the ball, the charity ball, and that was fantastic, Carol. It was really good. Yeah,
that turned out exactly how I wanted it to. That just like, we had a good time, we raised some money, we raised a lot of awareness for Action Medical Research. One of their head of fundraising came and gave a little speech and told us what the money was used for and all that kind of thing. It was just, it was lovely.
So you never do things by half either. So you're going to go and ski to the North Pole, and you raised $37,500. Like, it's massive.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the main things was kind of the time management and the expectation management of what I could get done in what kind of time frame. So I was working kind of 3/4 time, part-time rates at work. So I'm still doing 12-hour shifts, I'm still doing nights, I'm still doing weekends. And I've got 2 kids now. My husband, who is just phenomenal, and having somebody who is supportive. I would have done it without his support, but having his support just made it so much easier. And I literally just said to him, I'm going to ski to the North Pole. And he said, right, what do you need me to do? And I said, I just need you to take care of the kids for 2 weeks in April whilst I'm on expedition, and to give me the time to be able to do all the things that I need to do before then. And he was like, yeah, cool, no problem. And just like, he was phenomenal. There was no one time where I was kind of haggling to be able to like train or anything like that. But yeah, having to train, do my shifts, look after the kids and fundraise all within that kind of 18-month period, it really sharpened up my time management skills, for sure.
So it's something you probably still hold now. So everything that you learned then, or you managed to do then, I guess rolls on to everything else in life and what you're doing.
Yeah, completely. So since I got back, I started the business, and that's helped massively with the business, because now I understand how to kind of carve up my chunks of time so that nobody feels like they're missing anything, but there's time for everything to fit in.
Yeah. A lot of side hustle, Cam.
Yeah. Now it's getting to the point where I'm not sure which is the side hustle. So I'm still working as a paediatrician. It's an absolute privilege looking after other people's kids. And there's things I do at work that I could never have that kind of satisfaction and that kind of contentment that I'm helping other people. All of it basically breaks down to my desire always to be helping other people. That's why I wanted to be a doctor in the first place. And I just feel like now I've got more avenues to do that with. So I'm still at work, I'm still a paediatrician, but also I can help other people, kind of professionals who may be like me. Going to the North Pole really changed my perspective on what was important, my family. You know, I mean, there is nothing quite so sobering, I don't think, is any kind of expedition. When you're out of your usual environment, it really makes you kind of contemplate and think about what it is that's important when you get home. But that was like 10 days where literally all I saw was just frozen ocean. We knew there were polar bears nearby. It was like between -30 and -50. Physically, I was finding it really challenging. Mentally, I was finding it massively challenging. And it just really, I came home and I thought, okay, these are the things that I know are important. And family came right at the top. So I've basically taken a step back from my hours at the hospital to spend more time with them. But everybody's got to earn money and everybody wants to be satisfied in their career. So now my business is kind of my second income stroke and equal income. But again, it's just another avenue to help people. Other people who maybe have got halfway through their career life and what they chose when they were 18, 20, 25 doesn't quite work for them anymore. But there's parts of it that they enjoy, but they want a new challenge, or their lifestyle has changed, or their life-work balance needs to change. So I'm helping those people to do the same sort of thing that I've done. But also the products that I endorse and I sell, I absolutely love. And coming from my background, I know why they work, I know how they work, and so that's been amazing. So now that is my hybrid career. It's kind of, I'm sort of half like businesswoman, mum, entrepreneur, and kind of half still paediatrician.
That's amazing, and we'll put the links to that as well. So if anyone's watching this,
awesome.
We'll add those on at the end. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, Cam, you mentioned when in the North Pole the mental and physical challenges. So I've never been. I can't actually quite imagine what it's like.
I don't really know how to describe it.
What was it like day one when you arrived? What was your first impression?
So the kind of process for getting there is quite complicated. So you fly to Oslo and then you fly up to Svalbard, which is Spitsbergen basically. It's a massive island off the north of Norway. And the reason I've always wanted to go to the North Pole was I read The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman when I was a young girl, and I must have read it about 50 times. And at that age, I didn't realise that any of it was based in fact. So I thought Svalbard was a completely fictional place, didn't exist. And then I think I was about 16, 17, and I realised that the Northern Lights actually exist and Svalbard exists. And I was like, okay, I have to go and see those things. So yes, it was funny that actually that's where you fly into. So when you get there, that's where we did our kind of, we prepared our sleds. We had to, I should have brought it down with me. We had to sew fur into the hoods of our coats because it gives you kind of a little microclimate around your face to keep your face from getting too cold. So we prepared our rations, we prepared our sleds, we practiced skiing, we practiced putting up tents, which is not simple when you can't feel your hands and there's gale force winds. It's really complicated. You need to practice it because losing your tent is literally losing your life. There's nothing more important than your tent when you're there. So we did all of that, and getting off the plane in Svalbard, it was -10, which is pretty warm actually. When you're up there, you're like, oh yeah, -10, no problem. But when we got off the plane, I remember I travelled with some of the team, and we got off the plane. We were like, oh my god, we should take a selfie. It's not that cold; it'll be fine. Literally took whatever it was 5 seconds to take the selfie, and then we're like, actually, yeah, it's quite cold. Let's just go in. And when you get there, there's a stuffed polar bear in the airport. It's just the craziest place. We were there for 4 days, and then you get on, it's a Russian camp that they build on the ice every year called Borneo. So you take another flight to get there, and they create that camp for a month every year, and then it gets dismantled and they take it back to Russia. It's literally created just for expeditions. And when we got there, it was -35.
What does that feel like?
I thought I had something in my nose because basically your nose hairs freeze. So it's you've literally got little icicles in your nose. So I thought I had something in my nose, and I kept trying to blow my nose and rub my nose, and it's yeah, that's not working. And then the expedition leader came to me and said, Cam, that's just what happens. You need to stop trying to mess around with your nose. There's nothing in there. And it was just an instant. My hands were cold, my face, and when I say cold, it's really difficult to describe it. When you've had a snowball fight and you've not got proper gloves on and you literally can't feel your hands. So I would say I've lost my fingers, I've lost my hands. And it turned out actually that was a real issue for me. I really don't have very good circulation, and there were a couple of sort of compounding factors that made that worse. And I would lose the feeling in my hands 4, 5, 6 times a day, to the point where I could crush them with a sledgehammer and I wouldn't know, like I literally couldn't feel them. So physically, that's what was going on with me, especially. So my hands and my feet. The first day that we started skiing, I was like borderline hypothermic, so I was shivering uncontrollably. I was really struggling to keep my body temperature in the correct kind of balance.
Yeah.
And mentally, that really takes its toll on you, because you are constantly aware of your hands, you're constantly aware of your feet. I had never skied before, like never had a pair of skis strapped to my feet before. So I had to learn to cross-country ski, like literally that very first day. And it's not flat, the North Pole. Like there's ridge lines and there's blocks of ice and there's open water leads where the ice splits and you're literally just staring at the Arctic Sea, which is just like the most frightening prospect. And then they freeze over and you have to test to see if they're thick enough for you to ski on yet and all this kind of stuff. But your mind is split in like 10 different directions all the time. And that's really exhausting. Like it really, and that's why I think mentally it was so hard, because I was trying to make sure my fingers were safe. Because obviously as a paediatrician, I can't not have fingers, you know, I mean, just in life in general, fingers are good. But I felt like there was a real kind of danger to my job when I got home if I lost any of my fingers. So I was really concentrating on that. And I'm trying not to slow up the group, because I was clearly the slowest. I was trying to ski for the first time. I was pulling all of my equipment in a 45-kilo sled behind me. So there's a lot of stuff going along. And we knew there were polar bears, so we were like constantly tracking to see if we could see anything. Mentally it was really hard. And physically, it's just the most extreme environment. Like, even if you're really well prepared. So Alan Chambers, who was the expedition leader, it's the 16th year that he's gone. He's actually got a OBE or MBE, I'm trying to think, for an expedition that he did in the late 90s, which was a world first that involved the North Pole. And even he was really struggling with his hands that year.
Wow.
So it was just, you know, like, he's got phenomenal amounts of experience. He's done it, he's probably spent equal amounts of times in those sorts of environment as he has in, you know, other environments. And he was struggling. So physically it is really hard. You're trying to, you know, if you come across like an ice block or a ridge, you're trying to get over with your skis and you're trying to pull the 45-kilo sled behind you. And sometimes you're on a ridge and your sled is on a ridge and your tipping point is at a different time to your sled's tipping point. So it's just like physically it's really hard.
Like, how did you train for that as well? Like, the training must have, obviously anything you do will never be like the actual real experience, but what does train like for it?
So in retrospect, what I should have done was done like a ski touring couple of weekends in like Norway or something, and that would have really helped me acclimatise and let my hands acclimatise. But I basically did anything that involved endurance, anything that involved strength. So I was doing spin classes, I was doing CrossFit for a little while, and then that logistically that got too hard because I was trying to juggle everything else. But the main thing is that you pull tyres. So I had a harness rigged up to 2 tyres and I just pulled tyres around the countryside. So preferably through mud, through sand, like anything that gives you extra friction.
Yeah.
And you have to build up your legs and your lower back, basically.
As strong as possible.
Yeah.
So if anyone sees anyone wandering around with tyres strapped to their backs, they're probably...
That's probably what they're training for, yeah.
And what was so when you camped out for the evenings, you had your day skiing, what was it like going to sleep? Were you ever relaxed completely?
I struggled a lot with body temperature, like I said. So when we got into the tent, I think by design, I was sharing a tent with Alan, who was the expedition leader. So we spent a good half hour basically just trying to warm me up. So we broke a couple of sort of polar rules. We had our stove inside our tent, which is obviously not a good idea, but I was literally struggling that much. But you have to be really careful with that because all that condensation will freeze. So in the morning, me and Alan would have a little game to see who could get the other one first. So if I woke up first, I would bang the tent to make the ice fall onto his face. Or he would do it to me first. But yeah, so we spent a good half hour just trying to warm me up. And then basically you're melting ice, you're melting snow. That is what you're doing to make all of your meals. So you have like dehydrated expedition meals, and you're basically just melting snow to, make yourself dinner or make yourself breakfast. And you're melting snow for water because your insensible losses, so your breathing losses, are really high, and you are sweating despite the fact that you're really cold because you're working so hard. And we were skiing like 8 to 10 hours a day. So you needed like 3 to 4 litres of water. It takes a good 2-3 hours for 2 people to have dinner, because it takes that long to melt your enough snow to actually make your dinner and make your drinks. So the evening routine was basically all about getting rehydrated, getting food, and then we would call into the camp to let them know our position, and then go to sleep. But in April, it's midnight sun basically. So it's never dark. All day, all night looks exactly the same. So we all wore like those little airplane like masks and stuff to try and go to sleep. And you are literally, your sleeping bag is zipped up to here and down to here, and you're just trying to keep warm basically.
What was for you the 2 points, like the lowest points and then the highest point? So the best part for you and the part that you found probably the worst part?
So the highest point was just like a really good hour of skiing. When it's flat and it's fast, and we had really good weather. So it was -30, but that's really good weather. We had hardly any wind. We had amazing visibility. And the sun is really low in the sky, obviously, because you're basically at the North Pole. And just those skills that like you could never pick up in any other way. So I could tell you roughly by day 3, day 4, I could tell you what time of day it was without looking at a watch, just by looking at where the sun was, because we were always skiing north. As the sun was moving, you knew what time of day it was. And just the snow sparkles is like literally skiing on diamonds. Wow. So just like a really good hour of just solid skiing, and it's really smooth and it's really fast, and everything around you is just like twinkling and sparkling. And yeah, that was just the absolute high point. Just knowing I'm in this completely crazy environment, and I've worked for 18 months to get here, and I'm here now, and I'm doing exactly what I thought I would be doing. That was just incredible. That was amazing.
That must have been so empowering.
Yeah, that was so cool. And then the low point was that I didn't actually make it. So I got frostbite in both my thumbs, and had to be evacuated by helicopter, and I was absolutely gutted, just completely and utterly hollow, like so gutted that after I'd cried a little bit, it was just like, I don't know what to do, I don't know who I am, there was just nothing left inside. And it was very mild, so physically it wasn't a big problem, but we'd had to work really hard to keep my hands safe, and despite all of that work, I still got frostbite.
How did you overcome that? Because that must be, I think often it's the path to achieving a goal sometimes is and also hearing you describe this, is worth maybe 10 times more than achieving the actual goal itself. But how do you overcome and mentally broach yourself and help yourself through not achieving a goal?
I found it really hard, and I didn't really know. Like, it turned out when I decided, that, okay, I'm going to ski to the North Pole, I was kind of using the law of attraction, I was using a lot of visualization, I didn't know any of those things were helpful. I hadn't come across any kind of mindset training, like nothing like that at all. And fortunately, when I came home, it had kind of sparked off something in me. I started looking for a lot of that stuff. I started looking for resources. And that's basically what I did. So I just kind of tried to graciously accept, okay, this is what's happened. What can I learn from it? What am I going to do with it? What have I already learned? What have I already achieved? And I just, one thing that was abundantly clear was I need to do something about my career. I need to do something about my work-life balance. Those kids that I've got are the most precious, things, memories, feelings that I have, and they need to be cherished and they need to be looked after as much as possible. So that was my main focus when I got back. And actually, I think that's quite a healthy way of doing it, is having a focus outside of you. Yeah. Because you've been so focused on your own goal and your own achievements, is finding something else. What I come to realise more and more now is looking after other people, cherishing other people, lifting other people, cheerleading, motivating. Actually, that is the most satisfying thing, and that motivates you. Yeah. In turn. I find it very difficult to just kind of motivate myself, but if I can motivate somebody else who does something incredible and that kind of feeds back to me, then I get that feeling. So that's basically what I did when I got home. I just thought, okay, I'm going to put all of my time and effort into the kids, into figuring out what my next step is, and I'll just take what I've learned and try my best to move on. I'm not great at moving on, so I did spend quite a long time sulking and being disappointed, and but I think it was kind of inevitable, because there was just things, the first time in my life that I've ever had utter certainty about something. I was like, no, I'm going to the North Pole. And luckily, when I was picked up by helicopter, they actually took me to the North Pole.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Yeah. On my way out on my evacuation. So I still was there. I took a load of names printed on a flag in memory of people's loved ones. And my biggest concern when I was evacuated was I told people I would take their loved ones to the North Pole, and I have to take their loved ones to the North Pole. So luckily I was still able to do that. So I went and I took photos with the flag and all those people. It really touched people, that. So that was a, at least I got to do that kind of thing. But yeah, I just tried to take the lessons, put those into practice, and then naturally I think other things came up in my mind and other things started to happen.
Everything, life started moving.
Yeah,
driving forward. And Cam, you mentioned about reading. So one of the things I always ask people on here is, what are the 3 books that you would recommend that have really made an impact on you?
The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. Does that count?
100%. I love that book.
Even if you read it when you were 10. So that I mean, genuinely, that had a really big impact on me. And I think when I got home, I started talking about that, and it turned out a lot of people as children read something or heard something, or that really impacted them later on. Yeah. So just recently in the April-May season, Ben Fogle summited Everest, and that was a childhood dream of his from all those years ago when he first read about it in like the Encyclopedia Britannica or something. So definitely the Northern Lights. Just because you read it when you were young doesn't mean it's not powerful. What have I read since? At the moment, I'm halfway through Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron, who has been the coach for the 2 previous, last year's CrossFit Games champions. And his take on coaching, reaching for excellence rather than perfection, and the way that he kind of incorporates mindset and kind of sports psychology and things into training those athletes, I just think is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I think that I will read that over and over again, and I think I'll pick up new stuff from it, each time I read it. And then, gosh, a third one. I love You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, because I love it. I think sometimes a book finds you at the right time. You start reading something when your mind is kind of open for it. And that was definitely the book for me. And I just love her style. Like, the content is probably really similar to loads of other people's books, but just the way she puts it across, I think sometimes you just find somebody whose personality fits yours.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that book. I love the fact that she's just so direct and she's so down to earth about what she's saying.
Thank you so much.
No
Everyone
worries.
watching, we're going to put links to everything Cam's chatted about